section or the logical reasoning section was fairly illogical, to say the least. Okay, but let's go through the paper and the highlights. Okay, okay. I hope the audio is clear. Okay, Quant Q&A. Okay, great. So audio is clear. So let's continue. And just a request: questions to me should be posted in the Q&A box. Anything to do with admin should be on the chat box. Okay. Okay, great. So the highlights. This paper continues with the difficult LR or the illogical logical reasoning section is what I would want to call it. And English and current affairs were not difficult, especially English. I am sure most of you would have comfortably handled the English. Current affairs was not very easy, but not difficult either. But Quant was slightly more difficult than last year. Yes, it had long question, and as usual, this is a very normal thing for symbiosis. Incorrect English, incorrect grammar is a norm. Okay, so some amount of difficulty might have been there in terms of comprehending the question, but otherwise, by and large, it was not a very difficult English Quant paper. More difficult than last year, but I would not call it a very difficult paper. And yes, we will be very quickly putting up the snap score calculator. The memory-based paper will be uploaded shortly. That work is on. We are collecting questions from students and working out the answers, because most of the time we don't get the full question. Okay, but yes, working on, and shortly we will be uploading the snap score calculator. Okay. Okay, let's go through the overall thing, and this is what most of you would be looking for. What is likely to be a cutoff for SIBM Pune SCM-HRD? Likely to be something like 75. It could be as low as 72. So as when I'm looking at SIBM Pune or SCM-HRD, the cutoff could be in the region of 72 to 75. Last year this was about 68 odd marks for SIBM Pune, and maybe about a couple of marks less for SCM-HRD, and which is why we are saying the cutoff for SIBM Pune is likely to be at the upper end of this range, while SCM-HRD is likely to be closer to 72. Okay, not too much of a difference from that point of view. Yes, Faizan, this last year it was 2 marks per question. This year 1 mark per question, but remember English was very easy this year, and in even the reasoning part, even the current affairs part was not very difficult. Okay, let's go section by section. Okay, but suffice to say, in this paper an attempt of more than 100 was extremely difficult. Okay, and if I look at the accuracy, obviously accuracy would not be very high, especially when you come to the reasoning part. You would end up losing also, but accuracy would be fairly high when it comes to English section. Okay, so typically a score of 10 to 12 in current affairs. English, I am sure some of you may even be touching 35, but I will say anyone who gets a 32, 33 has done a very good attempt. Quantitative ability, again 20 plus is a good attempt, a good score. Let me put it this way, not an attempt. And the logical reasoning, data interpretation, 24 to 26 is likely to be a high attempt, and the score of about 20 is likely to is not going to be. I would say is likely. While many of you might be attempting only about 20 to 22 questions and might end up with a score of as low as something like 15, 16. So when I'm looking at this particular paper, let me just go to the whiteboard. Okay, when I look at this paper, if we look at the 4 sections, and let me start from the English one. I'll put current affairs at the end. English, then we have reasoning, and then we have maths or the quant. Okay, and we'll talk about GK in the end, current affairs, that is. Okay, so when you look at this paper of English, I'm sure a score of about 32, 33 is possible for students who are targeting SIBM Pune SCM-HRD. For the others, it might be a little lower. But a 28 to 30 was as a next score is possible. English, you can comfortably do the complete section in something like 23 to 24 minutes, or maybe 22, 23 minutes. Okay, and get this kind of a score. Okay. Similarly, when I look at quant, I find that even if you put in about 40 to 45 minutes, you will end up with a score of about 22, 23. Okay. So in a way, between these two, a score of 55 is likely to be a very high score. Anyone who's crossing 50 plus in these two combined has done a really good job of the paper. Similarly, when you go to the reasoning section, given the kind of paper it is, and with about 10 to 12 questions which are completely illogical, or you will really struggle to get the correct logic to get the answer, it effectively becomes, instead of 40 questions, it effectively becomes 30 questions. And within those 30 also, some of them will be time consuming, some of the places you will end up making an error. So the best case scenario seems to be a score of 20 plus. Or in other words, as I said earlier, these three can add up to 75 marks. And GK say 10 to 12. Okay, so these cumulatively 85 to 90 is likely to be the highest people are going to. I don't think there will be many people who will cross 90. So to me, given the paper, a score of about 90 seems to be a very high score, and which means it is only slightly better as compared to last year. And while these marks per question of reasoning has gone down from 2 to 1, this is likely to be a 99 percentile plus 99, or rather, let me put it this way, this is likely to be a 99.7, 99.8 kind of a percentile. Okay, and hence what I talked about earlier was that the score of 75 odd out here is likely to be a 97, 98 percentile, or for SIBM Pune and SCM you can end up with a call at a score of 72 to 75. And just for your information, last year SIBM Pune cutoff was 68.5 marks, which was 97.3 percentile. SCM is typically 1 to 2 marks lesser than that, so that would be about 66.5 to 67. Okay, let's say about 67 for SCM and this is likely to go up by 5 to 7 marks is all we are stating. Okay, let me just check out if there are any other questions. Okay. Okay. DI was time consuming, which is why we are talking about this. Okay, we'll talk about the cutoffs. We'll talk about the cutoffs separately. Okay, we'll talk about the cutoffs for other institutes separately. We'll talk about specific question and separately. Let's go through the sections now. Okay, I'll hand over the mic to Bharti to talk about current affairs and English.
Hi everyone, good evening. I hope all of you like the current affairs section, because till last year SNAP always called it the general knowledge section. Now I am somebody who is not really very good at GK, but when it comes to current affairs, I do read the newspaper every day. So what I found personally, not being an expert in GK, was that I could answer around 15 questions pretty easily. For example, there is this query on Zabong and Myntra. Well, the clue there would be the year, to July 2016. Myntra was acquired last year. So this year Myntra acquired Zabong, but before that, Myntra was already acquired by Flipkart. So that answer would be Zabong, and that's pretty easy. Okay, you have to look at the year there. There were a few questions which were tricky. For example, there is this question on who is the UN chief, but the year there given is who is going to be the UN chief next year. So that cannot be Ban Ki-moon, because he already is the chief of UN. So questions like these were supposed to be known to students who read newspaper every day. So when it comes to the current affairs section, there were questions on whom did Germany defeat to win the FIFA World Cup? Now that is a question that anybody should know. Okay, and just for your information, the answer is Argentina. There were some questions on business and business awareness. There was 6 questions on that. There were questions on sports, and those questions were pretty easy. For example, who is the youngest to score 10,000 runs in cricket? Now that is something that students should know. And there were some questions on different policies, and that is a trend that I have been seeing it this year. For example, IIFT also gave you some questions on the Modi government and its policies, and even Symbiosis has asked you some questions on the policies. For example, that Setu a project, which is like the national highway should not be crossed by railway tracks or something. So those questions were pretty easy to answer. That's why current affairs section, you can easily score 10 to 12. And in fact, I think that anybody who reads newspaper every day should be able to score around 15 easily. So if you score 15 here, you're getting a higher percentile because it will just add to it. It's not going to be a deal breaker. But if you score less than 10 in current affairs, then that's going to be a problem when it comes to the overall percentile. So that's round about it. There is no sectional cutoff in SNAP. So you get an overall cutoff. You do get sectional scores, but they're not taken into consideration there. Let's come to English. This was pretty easy. One noticeable change this year was for last 2 to 3 years they were asking questions on those figure of speech questions. This year there was just one question about those compound word question. There was just one from there. When it came to English, the passages were really easy. All you had to do was read the question, scan for the answer. If you had already taken IIFT, you must have got practice, and that was the clue there. Options were not even close. So both the passages were like cakewalks. When it came to parajumble, I believe there was just one question which was very tricky. It was that question on Bitcoin, because even there were two options and they were both looked correct, but the source tells you that the answer was something which was very tricky, which not many of us would have got correct. I also noticed it after taking the paper. So there was just one tricky question in parajumble. The other two questions were pretty easy. A verbal analogy, 3 cakewalk questions, absolutely easy. Maybe the dregs and wine question was slightly difficult. Otherwise, the other two questions are known to you. Foreign phrase, if you don't know the meaning of deja vu, then that's really a matter of concern. Now that word is used all the time. So most of these vocabulary questions, they came from words, or they contained words which we use every day. Okay, that one word substitution agnostic question, that was also pretty easy. One noticeable change this year was we did not have any grammar questions. There were some fill in the blank questions which required you to use tenses or your knowledge of tense, but mostly the question on like last year we had 2 to 3 questions which talked about identify the correct sentence. This year we did not have those error correction question or sentence correction question. So that was a change this year. The vocabulary questions were pretty easy. They were close to the GRE pattern where you have more than one correct answer. So there were 2 questions where you had to choose 2 words. So maybe synonyms or roughly similar words would have been chosen. Synonym, antonym, well, there were 3 words which were already there in IIFT. In case you had looked at the paper, I can clearly remember the word nadir, and in fact, we discussed it in the class after IIFT. So nadir was repeated. Common confusable, discrete was already there in CAT 2007. So all those questions, elude, and these questions are pretty easy. These are known to students. Okay, and identify figure of speech, we've kept it under figure of speech, but it is not exactly a pure figure of speech question. We just kept it under that heading because the other options were there. That was slightly difficult if you don't know the meaning of, say, homograph or homophone. The 2 critical reasoning questions were real cakewalk. You don't even have to think about it. That brain question was slightly tricky, but if you keep your basics intact, you'll be able to answer the questions. Our memory-based paper will be uploaded very shortly. We are working on it. It should be done by, I guess, 8:30. That's what we have kept, as the cutoff. English, we have English and GK and other sections have already made, and we're just, about to upload it. Cutoff for SIIB. We'll talk about cutoffs, separately. Now, any question related to English per se? For individual questions, you can check our online upload. 32 to 34 attempts in VA, 25 in How. RC were long, but you didn't have to read them. It's very simple. You did not have to read those RCs. In fact, that RC on that liquefaction and hydroelectricity or something, there was an RC. Well, you could have answered all the 5 questions in, I guess, 3 to 4 minutes. All you had to do was find out the keyword in the option and scan for it, because it's a paper-based exam. Scan for the answer. Reading 10 to 12 minutes for that RC passage is a sheer wastage of time. What will you do by reading the passage? There are so many facts, you don't have to remember them. All you have to do is probably skim it, say read the first para, last para, first line of other paragraphs. So don't. Or Achilles heel, baker's dozen, okay. Baker's dozen is 13, it's a euphemism for 13. And Achilles heel is your vulnerable point. Have you watched Troy? Troy, the guy was called Achilles, and he was killed because he hits the heel. Okay, so that was one. Figure of speech question, compound words, that's the answer. RCs were definitely easy. We'll talk about the individual questions later. That's not a homonym. Okay, homonym is something which is spelled similarly. Now for the other 2 sections, I'm handing over the mic to GP sir.
Okay, many of you are asking cutoffs for various institutes, various programs. We will be coming out with cutoffs very, very shortly. The first thing to remember is cutoffs are likely to go up a little as compared to last year for the simple reason the quant the English you can score much higher, and quant and the reasoning something like 20 odd marks was definitely on. Between the two, if not 40, you would at least get a 35 score. Okay, so 35 plus 35 70 or 65 to 70 between 65 to 70 between quant plus reasoning plus English was definitely possible. And you add another 10 odd marks in GK, you will get a 75 to 85 kind of a range. Okay, so please, while some of you are feeling that 30 plus in English is difficult, I don't think so. And as Bharti has clearly mentioned, the passages were not that long and they were easy to read, and all, if you look at the question, they were factual in nature. So all you needed to do was quickly skim and get to the answers, mark the answers. If required, you could even go to from the question to the passage. Okay. Coming to the question, there were a few questions which appear to be incorrect. We are still coming out with the we will collecting the question. We'll come out with the what we think are the incorrect questions. Okay. Please remember it's memory based, so we may not be completely correct there. Okay, but yes, while attempting the paper, some of them look like that they are possibly incorrect. Okay. In terms of the specific question, I will not go into the details of the specific question because we will be coming out with the memory based paper, collected most of them. But as I said earlier, something like out of the 40 questions of quant, there were about 30 which were attemptable. Okay, there were 30 which were attemptable. Okay, Sarthak memory based paper will come out in about half an hour or so. Latest by 9 o'clock, most probably by 8:30, 8:35. Okay, 30 were attemptable, and out of these, I would believe no one will be able to pick out all 30 attemptable questions. Something like 25 would be attempted, and maybe about 3 to 4 could be wrong. Okay, because there were a few questions which were a kind of trick questions, and you needed to look at the question carefully to get to the answer. This was an interesting change in the paper when they have introduced certain kind of trick questions. Okay. Similarly, when you go to reasoning, all kind of reasoning questions are there. Okay, there are all kinds of reasoning questions. Yes, there are 11 mathematical, that is one big number, but some of those visual reasoning questions, the one with arrows or with the ellipse and amoeba, yes, Manas, quant was tougher than last year, and which is why I said out of 35, out of 40 questions, if you do something like 25 odd questions, you have done a good job. Akhil, we will not be discussing questions here. Question will be uploaded. Okay, and yes, DI one set was definitely easy, and in the other set, out of the you could do 2 out of 4 questions. Okay, okay. I would say one set easy and one 2 out of 4 could be attempted. 55 questions, little on the lower side. It rules you out from the top 4 institutes, which is SIBM, Pune and Bangalore, SCMHRD and SIIB, but the others are still possible. Okay. 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 So reasoning again, all kind of questions. Those visual reasoning questions were there. Some of those series were extremely difficult, and some of them were not solvable at all. Okay. The saving grace was clock and this were easy. Venn diagram again was not difficult. Visual reasoning, as I said, input outputs was surprisingly a very easy 4 question, and if you miss these 4 easy questions, it would have been a disaster. Okay. Okay. Similarly, other easy part was the coding decoding, that numbers that row column grid was given, and most of the series questions were a difficult part. Okay. So a mixed kind of a thing, as I said. Out of these 40 questions, again something like 10 to 12 can be discarded straight away, and something like 22 to 25 can be attempted. Okay, can be attempted. Okay, these are the attemptable ones, and as I said, 20 plus is a very high score, and I would not be surprised if 17, 18 is what most of you are likely to end up with. Okay. Okay. So the important thing again is that irrespective of what you have done, please sleep over today's paper and start shifting your focus completely to that and TISNET from tomorrow. Okay, if you are scoring a 75 plus, or I would say even a 70 plus, Not 75 plus is a very safe number. If you are scoring 70 plus, you have a chance of getting a call out from SIBM Pune and SCMHRD, and definitely you will get a call from SIIB and SIBM Bangalore. Okay, actually these two could be as low as 63 to 65. Okay, and someone was asking cutoffs for SIIB agribusiness. SIIB agribusiness could be a very low score, something like a 45 to 50 also. Okay, so if you are scoring if you are getting a score, and we will be coming out with the section, will the cutoffs for all the institutes. Once you fill up the score calculator or the memory, put up your answer in the memory-based paper, we will come out with detailed cutoffs for or the details of the cutoffs for almost all the SNAP institutes. Okay, and that will be category wise, and that will also take care of the PWD and the Kashmiri migrant category. Okay, and then we will be able to give you a better idea. Okay, SIMS is likely to be a 50, maybe a 45 to 50 is SIMS likely to be. Okay. Okay. Abhishek is asking what happens when the question is wrong. Most of the time when question is wrong, it is eliminated. The question gets cancelled and no one gets marks for it. Attempts of 80 plus Jitin is good, provided you are able to get at least a 65. 60 plus for SIIB agribusiness is very high. You will definitely get a call Jitin at 60 plus. Okay. Total attempt of 73 is possible to get a SIBM SCMHRD Pune, difficult. Extremely difficult, because this you will need at least a 70 score, or even if you look at last year's paper, at least a 68.5. So at 73 you are unlikely to get. Vibgyor question doesn't make sense. That is what symbiosis is, and which is why I said symbiosis has a logical section which is completely illogical at times. Okay. Okay. Can mock scores be reliable measure for today's performance? Reasonably reliable performance. Okay. Okay. Decent score for SC candidate. A SC candidate typically gets a call at about 70 percentile, and which will be something like a 50 to 55 based on today's paper. But as I said, we'll come out with details with a more accurate assessment a little later. Abhishek, 95 questions, you have done extremely well. 95 questions attempted in this paper, I would say, is a very good attempt. Okay, 70 to 75 marks. Akshat, please start preparing for the next stage. Okay. Okay, SIBM Bangalore is a good institute. It's a good backup institute. I would not put it among the top institute, but at the category 4 level, these are good institutes and can be looked at as backup. Unfortunately, you cannot apply if you have not already applied to it. The date is over. Okay, Ayush is asking us. Let me just come down to other questions. Okay. SIBM Bangalore with an attempt of 88 to 90, reasonably good chance, even with the 80% accuracy. Okay. 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 I'm not taking any more question on the cutoffs because we need more data from you and please don't write the question 10 times. I'm going to ignore any question which comes more than once. Vibgyor is correct. Yes, Avnash, Vibgyor is correct. Indigo is the answer. Okay. Harsh, 104 attempts. If these are genuine attempts, please immediately start preparing for your personality assessment stage. Join PDP so that you don't waste your time. Start your PDP classes immediately. Okay. Okay. 22 plus in current affairs is extremely good again.
Amazing.
Okay. Chance for symbiosis SIBM Pune with 68 to 72. Yes, Krish, I would not rule you out. 68 to 72, it's an outside chance, but yes, it is possible. If not SIBM Pune, SCMHRD is definitely possible. Manas is asking, should Conjura CL students from Vizag buy PDP course in CL? Obviously, yes. No discussion about it. Shayan, I am not answering your question because you are just putting the same question again and again. You have put it at least 20 times. I am just rejecting your question now. I will not be answering any of your questions. Okay. 92 questions, any chance? Good. Okay. For that, we will be coming out with an alternate, with another blog post. Okay. Let me just look at the chat box and see if there are questions out there. Okay. Okay. let me quickly, please don't write any more, repeat the question. Okay. And as I said, cutoffs, these are broad idea what I've given you. And beyond that, you will have to wait for this paper for the score calculator. Okay. Paras is asking, okay, Paras, we have already taken care of your question. Actually, we have done it. Cutoff for SIBM Pune. SIBM score cutoff is likely to be 60 marks for general category. Okay. Incorrect questions are eliminated most of the time. Memory-based paper should be up by 8:30, latest 8:45. Okay, sorry, it is 9 o'clock. Memory-based paper will be up at 9 p.m. Okay. Okay. So what else do we have here? Okay. Okay. Specific question will be, you can check out your answers in the memory-based paper. Okay. Innovation and entrepreneurship is a new program, has not really, it's difficult to say how good it will be. But given that it is from SIBM Pune, it is likely to do decently well, if not exceptionally well. Marks by SIIB, IB likely to be about 62 to 65 marks. Calculator will be live by 9 o'clock. 70 to 75 marks, Akshat, start preparing. You will get a call, if not from SIBM Pune, at least SCMHRD would be there. 98 attempts, 100 attempts with good accuracy are definitely good. SIMS Pune defense category could be 50 to 55 marks. IBS Hyderabad, SIBM Bangalore, I'll probably go for SIBM Bangalore. Yeah, CAT was not uploaded for the simple reason we couldn't get the questions. We collect questions from students and we couldn't get sufficient number of questions to give you a reasonable idea. SIMG Pune with 53 questions is possible, Bharat. For 105 questions, if these are genuine attempts, this is a very good attempt. PH category is typically the same as ST category, and which means something like a 60-65 percentile, 60 percentile is reasonably high, and which would mean maybe something like a 50 marks. Okay. SIIB, IB at 55 is unlikely. Okay. So let me just move on because I am not taking specific questions for the institutes and the specific cutoffs beyond what I have done so far. So please fill up I am again repeat, please fill up the score calculator. Okay. Score calculator should be up by 9 p.m. which is the memory-based paper. Okay. The memory-based paper will be up by 9 p.m. because many of you have already connected with us and given us the questions, and that is what we are uploading. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. But from tomorrow, two things: if you have done well, or whether you have done well or not done well, does not matter. Shift your focus completely to that. If you have done well, the additional thing you have to do is get down to working for your next stage, which is start your PDB class immediately. Okay, thank you very much, and apologies for the delay in the session. And yes, I have already taken the question, so I will not take any more. Thank you very much. Good night. Half an hour down the line, please check the website for the score calculator and the memory-based paper. Thank you. All the best.